believed that the green tech is going to revolutionize the way we do things and bring in money by 2032, at least at a percentage of 19.5. Now, what can we say? All these things which we have discussed or what I have presented come with their own challenges. The challenge is that security becomes a constant factor. Cybersecurity threats, you come up with a technology, a very nice technology, transfer money from KCB to your mobile phone, transfer money from a mobile phone to KCB. But between those two systems, there is another one trying to get information. These transactions, what are they and how can I tap into it and just transfer the whole thing, not within between those two systems, but elsewhere? Cyber threats, and by extension, cyberbullying. So there is growing cyber threats. There is a growing element of data breaches. There is also need to sensitize on importance of data protection. I know there are efforts that have been made in terms of legislation. Individual nations are at different levels of legislation. But we are going to see later that for our case, there is some lagging, that our legislation is not coping up so fast with the technology. The element of digital divide was presumed even by UNCTAD that it is one area that is going to bring a challenge. But then we need to bridge that digital divide by addressing inequality and access issues. Let us refresh our minds the other day, just a few years ago, when the government of the day indicated they want to do digitization by having some laptops to grade 1 or whatever pupils. I don't know, everybody will have his or her own perception on the success of the project. But besides pumping over almost 20 billion, there is nothing to smile about. The end product, did we, okay, at the end of the day, we need to ask ourselves, did we realize that or we didn't? So there must be some basics that we need to put in place first, even as we try to bridge digital divide. Regulatory challenges and need for adaptive policies to keep pace with the technological change. Yes, our regulations most of the time are lagging. For example, there is a lot of stories about climate change, but many people are addressing forestry and so forth, and the emission from industry. What about the ICT infrastructure? How about issue of infusion of technology and the recycling mechanisms? Balancing innovation and regulation is important. And most importantly are the ethical considerations, privacy concerns, AI biasness. And biasness here means that it all only depends with the level of training that has been done to the AI algorithms. The more you train, the more accurate they become. And sometimes we may rely on AI, which has not been thoroughly trained. What happens? We get wrong results. And we also need to look at the impact on jobs and workshop dynamics. So what are the strategic approaches to success? For me, I looked at it from the contribution, the angle that institutions like GETSA, Kaimosi Friends University, and other institutions can bring on board, eradicating what we call digital illiteracy. We have seen the relationship, the comparison between developed and developing nations. We are still behind there. Digital literacy lays out 5 digital competencies, competence areas, and a total of 21 digital competencies. But then we need to explore issues to do with information data literacy, issues to do with the communication and collaboration, issues of content creation, issues of safety, that is security, and issues of problem solving. Because in the interest of time, I will say this, that literacy in the digital space is guided by 5 factors or 5 areas, core areas. One is creativity. And that speaks to our curricula, probably. How have we brought on board the element of problem solving, element of making our students more creative? Creativity. Critical thinking is a very important area. You can't solve any problem if we don't have critical thinkers. In fact, some of the IT gurus have argued that if you want to solve a problem, give to a lazy person. But if you want it to be a complex problem, give to a lazy. A simple one, give to a fella who is very sharp because he has a specific way of dealing with issues. But a lazy one will want to see this problem is, and give that person time, just specific time, and expect result from that person. They will be able to solve the problem. And that's why in other spheres, they were thinking, or the IT firms were thinking of recruiting people with the diplomas and certificates and that kind of thing, because they can be able now to critically think on how to surmount challenges before them. But if you have a degree holder, they will be keen on policy matters. And that is a food for thought. Critical thinkers. Practical and functional skills. Very important. And it all boils down to the way we deliver content, communication and collaboration, and of course, digital search skills. The digital space has a lot of data, what we call big data. But then you want to query specific information from those large data spaces. We need certain skills, or the students and other people need certain skills that will allow them to get specific information. Look, if all of us are given ChatGPT, for example, to query information, it all depends with how you will frame the question. We might be searching for the same thing, but it will give you feedback based on how you have framed the question. If you look at the Google search engine and query, it all depends on how you will frame the query. Literacy will help solve certain SDG areas. One, quality education, decent work and growth, economic growth, of course, issues of industry innovation and infrastructure, which is covered under SDG 9. We need problem solving skills here. And also reduce inequalities, such as digital divide. The second last SDG is sustainable cities and communities. That's why we have smart technologies and partnerships and collaborations. Very important. The power of ICTs. Now, which way to go? There is a will there, and the emphasis is we need to invest in digital literacy so that at the end of the day, we can be able to reap benefits. Digital literacy will lead to increased access to technology. It contribute to digital inclusion, online learning platforms, government policies and strategies, and of course, digital payment solutions, cybersecurity awareness, technology hubs and innovation centers, and the component of entrepreneurship and innovation. In fact, as a developing nation, I will begin to see that most of our institutions are embracing entrepreneurship and innovation by creating startups, supporting the young ones while they're still studying to come up with startups and the tech hubs. We may ask ourselves, why are institutions of higher learning, for example, buying solutions when they are offering degree programs in those areas? I always challenge myself too. How comes I'm teaching students doing Bachelor of Science, Computer Science, Bachelor of Science, IT, Master of Science, and so forth, and yet we procure solutions? Is it the goodwill by management? What is it? I expect that institutions should be leveraging on the expertise and the potential of the students because they are able to think very fast. They have more time. And that is what some institutions in South Africa have, that this is the way to go. I know my time is about. I will say this, that digital literacy is going to solve the problem of brain drain by bringing on board what we call global talent mobility, where it can facilitate brain gain, enabling individuals to engage in global networks and hence contributing to their home countries. That we might have Kenyans who are already out there and they want to contribute to the growth of our nation locally here. Digital entrepreneurship, of course, education opportunities and remote work and collaboration. These are areas that are going to change our life. As I finalize, what is then the future like? The future revolves around me and all of us in this conference to play a role. I am an advocate of computational thinking in STEM. When we craft curricula, I believe that we need to infuse critical thinking skills in areas of algorithmic thinking, in areas of data analysis, in areas of simulation and modeling. If I'm channeling out a teacher of maths, then that teacher should be able to simulate certain things, should be able to simulate and model. Coding and programming, very critical. User experience, critical thinking and problem solving, of course, AI literacy, and digital marketing skills. In fact, you can have a very good product, but if we don't have mechanism of marketing digitally, we don't have the technical know-how, then we can't make it. Cloud computing, blockchain, emotional intelligence is a critical component because the digital space now, caters of internet, is connecting various people, and you must be able to control emotions so that at the end of the day, we effectively act. Robotics and collaborative technologies, virtual reality and augmented reality in education, in gaming, in trainings, and so forth. And of course, biotechnology, including gene editing and communication skills. We need to come up with startups, innovation hubs in our universities and colleges. Let the hub become an engine of fertilizing ideas and nurturing those ideas into something else. When these youths come out of institutions, then they will be a change agents. Thank you very much for listening. Asante sana.
Wow. Thank you so much, Professor Omieno, for that insightful, very interesting presentation, very relaxed. The participants or the listeners will actually agree with me that it has been very well coordinated, and we have been able to follow through to the end. Thank you so much for sharing generously knowledge about the digital economy, specifically on the challenges and the opportunities. So as we move on, allow me emphasize on the take homes from Professor's presentation. He started by giving us a challenge. Are you as a person faster than a machine, or the machine is faster than you? That is a question that I asked myself, and he actually answered it quite well. It is true, machines are made by people, but the problem or the challenge is the speed or the pace at which we actually make or develop these machines or systems. So he has given us hope because we've been hearing at some point machines will come to replace human labor. But he has actually given us hope that we are still needed as human beings to drive those systems or those machines. Our professor went ahead and highlighted for us the enablers, or broke down for us the concept of the digital economy, where he talked about the need to have digital infrastructure in place. He talked about the aspects of the digital platforms, which are actually many in number at this moment. He also talked about the digital services that actually we get or procure. Then the aspect of e-commerce and data and digital payment platforms that we use now and then. Thereafter, Professor highlighted for us the key contributions of ICTs, specifically to the digital economy. And he talked about the digital platforms, the likes of Uber, which we use time and again. He also talked about e-commerce and online market prices. Talk of Jumia, talk of the Gigi market, talk of Alibaba. Every now and then we are procuring so many things, items or even services from all these platforms. That is thanks to the digital economy. Then he also talked about the gig economy that the young people can actually take advantage of. Then he delved into the disruptive technologies. At the beginning, I actually didn't know that we can have these technologies that are disruptive, but again, in a very positive way, because they are altering the way we normally operate. So it gave us examples of artificial intelligence. We are in the era of chat GPT, and he's kept on referring to it, especially for us at the university level. How we are going to survive, especially as examiners in this era. Maybe I'll request that professor gives advice towards the end. How are the lecturers and the examiners going to survive now in the era of the chat GPT? Then virtual reality. We have simulations of laboratories. We have simulations of trainings. You don't have to travel all the way physically to a place for you to tour the place, because we also have virtual tourism, like he talked about. He went ahead and talked about the relationship between the AI, or the artificial intelligence, and the education sector, specifically to the Sustainable Development Goal number 4. How can we leverage on AI and these disruptive technologies to help in the attainment of the SDGs, specifically number 4 and others that he alluded to towards the end? This does not mean that all this does not come without challenges. He highlighted for us some of the challenges and the risks associated with digital literacy and the other digital or the disruptive technologies that he talked about. Talk about cyber security threats and data protection. It is actually on the high at the moment. People are talking about their data being found everywhere. We have legislation to that effect, but like the way the presenter put it, we are still lagging behind if we compare ourselves with other countries or the developed world. The digital divide, especially when it comes to accessibility, he laid a lot of emphasis on that even us as universities, for us to talk about digital literacy, and then we have to make sure that we have equitable access to technology so as to address that aspect of digital divide. Then he has finalized by giving us what we are supposed to do as universities. In fact, the emphasis was there is no way out. We have to invest in digital literacy. There is a lot that we have to do in terms of coming up with these digital platforms for our students. He emphasized a lot of awareness in terms of cyber security. He has also emphasized on the need for universities and even schools to invest in technology hubs at local level and even national level. Then coming up with innovation centers, increasing access to technology, and having online learning platforms. We take advantage or leverage so much on the online learning platforms that are available. Finally, Professor has given a challenge and a must do for universities, Greater University and all the other universities, that there is no way out, but we have to invest in training our students, training the lecturers in critical thinking and problem solving. We have no way out but to make sure that we have AI literacy amongst the lecturers and the students. Of course, students have their own way of going about it, but for the lecturers, there is need for a formal training or capacity building in matters artificial intelligence. Then digital marketing skills is also the in thing. Then he has also mentioned aspects to do with cloud computing emphasis on biotechnology, communication skills, among others. Just to sum up, we are very grateful, Professor, for sharing all that with us. It has been a combination of a challenge and informing us what is happening in the digital world, because that is your area of specialization, and you've actually unpacked for us clearly in a very simple way what all these entail so that we understand. And I assure you, we have been able to follow through your presentation, and we have understood what digital literacy is, what challenges it comes with or it presents, and some of the opportunities. And you all the others will agree with me that from your presentation, we have also been able to learn some of the opportunities that we can get if we invest in digital literacy, and more so in the digital economy. So once again, we are very grateful for that quite insightful presentation. At this particular time, I want to invite any questions, any areas that you need clarified, any comments regarding Professor's presentation. Kindly, if you have a question, you just raise your hand and you pick it up. Thank you, Professor. I have seen your hand. You can take it up now.
Thank you very much, Faustine. I would like to agree with you that Professor Omieno was very relaxed, and he, in my view, demystified the whole area. You know, the terms that appear in the heading of the paper, you know, appear to be very intimidating for us who are not very good at that. But he presented it very well. Surely the work of a master in that area. Now, for me, there was only one thing towards the end which caught my attention, and I'm just making as a comment because the topic is about, among other things, the effect of disruptive technology. And I heard him say during the presentation, or probably didn't need to say so, but he observed that the students at the lower levels of our education system, certificates, diploma, etc., seem to have a different way of looking at things. And he suggested, or rather he observed, that maybe if we had a different way of interacting with them, we could actually gain more from this. But then it got me wondering whether we ourselves, the system we use in teaching in the universities, does not actually need to be disrupted. I think it appears to be too formalized. You go to certificate, you progress, it is very humdrum. And we have been doing it for ages. It's time for disruption. And disruption in this sense, that since the younger people, academically speaking, seem to be able to look at things differently, we can gain more if we reorganize our teaching in such a way that the higher levels, like lecturing and so on, involve the young ones, not just by teaching, but involving them. And this reminded me of something that actually I observed way back in the 1980s when I was in Europe, where the Nobel Prize winner, one of the Nobel Prize winners, there was actually a student working together with his professor. I think from my level, you know, management and so forth, we need to take up the challenge. This paper was about challenges, okay? We need to take up the challenge to see whether the way we are approaching our teaching methodologies on the teaching thing is actually right. Maybe we need to turn the tables upside down, and we need to think about that seriously. Why should we continue doing things in a traditional way for years and years without critically thinking about it? He raised also the issue of being able, the concept of critical thinking. I think we are too complacent. So we do everything in such a way that we get approval from regulatory body. It is too it is not taking us anywhere, and we're not going to make any breakthroughs in this. So, as I challenge, the challenge I took myself is that people who are in charge of education systems, university managers, need to think about how to exploit better the different ways in which younger people academically look at things. Involve them instead of talking to them and teaching them, involve them so they actually become part of the the innovation mechanism or resource, not just teaching to them, going through a routine procedure up to the PhD, and then you are back to where we are. That's the message I took. So I think that the curriculum needs innovation. That's what I'm saying. It needs innovation, and to go through this innovation, we need to disrupt the current one. We need to be bold enough to critically look at the current one and say it is due for disruption, so that we can actually tap in the resources of our younger people. That's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. We can take another one, then Professor Omeno will come in. Mr. Mugambi.
Okay, thank you. Mine is a comment and also maybe a clarification or a question. One is to actually acknowledge what Prof has actually brought out, and actually it's a challenge to all of us. And I was thinking when he was talking about the digital divide, and one of the ways that he has proposed is the bridging of the digital skills. But from his presentation is that what universities can do. But I was wondering, what of those people, many of Kenyans that will probably because of one reason or another, might not actually reach to the university. How can or might not have that opportunity maybe to go to a university and get these kind of digital literacy skills? What are some of the solutions that probably policy solutions that probably the government can initiate to reach out to the many Kenyans that really need these skills, to bridge that gap where we are at 39, others probably, I probably don't get the figures well, but there is actually a big gap. What are some of the practical aspects that from a policy perspective that can be done? I know the government has initiated several attempts of these. There was that of grade 1 pupils, which I believe didn't materialize. And there are others like the Jiajiri and the others in Kwanza City, but I think they don't seem to have very much reach, especially to the rural areas, where I think there is a lot of potential, especially to be engaged in this digital economy, which can really open up those opportunities, even for the farm products and so many other activities that can actually get onboarded on this digital economy. So what are some of the practical aspects that probably can go in line with this? And then the second aspect is that I was wondering, as developing nations, is there a future of us bridging this digital economy, digital divide, sorry? Since even as we speak of now, there is still that wide gap between the developed and the developing. We are now starting to adopt 5G, where others have already are miles ahead of us. We are talking about artificial intelligence. That's like when it's hitting home, where in other nations, probably they are way ahead of us. So is there a future of us bridging this gap? And lastly, is on the issue of is still on the issue of these disruptive technologies. They seem to have caught us unprepared. We seem like we are reacting right now. So I was thinking, as since the universities and these higher institutions are there, this is probably where we should be giving directions to the nation and etc. So, especially on the part of research. So, what are some of the things that probably in future, because they are continuing to evolve, especially the artificial intelligence, big data, virtual reality. What are some of the practical ways that probably as Kenya we can reorganize ourselves so that we can see the trends and probably be better prepared to take up the opportunities that come with these destructive technologies in future. So those are my main concerns. Thank you. Back to the MC.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mugambi. I would like now to invite Professor Mieno to give his response.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Let me appreciate, first of all, those comments and sentiments. DVC Asa, I can't agree more with you. When you look at how we teach, how we deliver content, we have remained so traditional. We have remained so formalized. We expect the students to come, have some writing materials, let us give out material or read some things. In fact, some lecturers go ahead and even read statements one by one, as learners write notes, or others just photocopy materials, and that's all. But that should not be the case. I can't agree more. We need to change. These learners are already having materials courtesy of technology. Technology is here with us. But there is a lot, if it is notes, a lot and a lot of teaching materials available. So we need to play a role of a facilitator and ensure that these learners now can be able to reason, tackle any challenge or problem before them. And as such, we need to disrupt our teaching approach. I agree. One of the approach that we can embrace is actually what we call active learning strategy, project-based learning, where we encourage students to work on real-world problems using latest technologies. And as we do that, we try to guide them based on the theories that we know already, the theories that are guiding such areas. We try to guide them on how to apply those theoretical knowledge to practical solutions. A case, if we were to teach a student on communication skills, what will he be able to do then? I am aware that there are so many platforms of communication. If I was to teach communication skills, then I can bring on board a problem on communication, let the student be able to solve it, but also leverage on technology. There are so many tools available that can support teaching of communication. Also, we should embrace collaborative learning using digital platforms where we create teamwork, connect to other, because most institutions have collaborations with other universities. We can be able to collaborate on certain aspects and prepare students for what we call interconnected world. But most importantly is inculcating critical thinking and problem-solving skills. That is very important. In university, there is this thinking, Prof, that when you are in university and you are done with the university life, as a student, then you get a job. Many of students have been going to university with the hope that they are going to get employed, white collar job, not to solve problems. I might be doing Bachelor of Science in IT, but I have some, let me say, I have some liking things to do with agriculture. Can I infuse now my skills that I have learned in agriculture? That is what I'm trying to say, that we need to change, and at the end of the day, they will be able to solve problems. In fact, I've seen in other universities where projects are done individually. I'm just giving that example of individual projects. Let's say it is a problem, and it's a term paper that they have to write in business, or it is a software solution they have to develop in IT. But then we emphasize on individual student developing. My thinking is, let them develop at individual level when they are at other levels, for example, third year or second year, whichever. But when it reaches fourth year, we should be embracing collaboration, because in the industry, they work as peers, as collaborators. So we should be embracing collaboration in terms of software solution. At the end of the day, they might come up with a better output. If they collaborate 2 or 3, they might develop something tangible that could solve a problem within an institution, rather than individual where they are just trying to apply basic concepts, and some of them might not even achieve or realize the objectives in those particular proposals. The other advantage is that as they do in collaborative, it gives them some kind of bonding, such that at the end of the day, they might think of expanding or extending that particular solution or output or idea when they leave the institution, when they leave the university. I have seen some students able to partner and now develop a company or come up with a company, and they basically blow up that particular problem, and it becomes an income to them. What students should note is that a small thing that we look at it as a small thing in university or colleges might be the real solution outside there. Look at a case where somebody comes up with a please call me simple code on please call me, but was demanding millions of shillings from the service, the provider, internet service provider. Coming back to Mugambi, thank you very much for the compliment. And again, you have raised some very fundamental issue here, that the focus was on students. What about those fellows who are not able to get to the university? What should the government be able to do? I agree with you that there are initiatives that the Kenyan government, for example, has tried to undertake, Ajira program and many others. But are they helping us? Yes and no. The issue is the government needs to come up with what we call, and maybe it is there, but I've not seen it well integrated, well formulated. One is the National Digital Literacy Framework, which becomes some kind of policy outlining clear goals and standards and benchmarks for digital literacy across all educational levels and sectors. I happen to have represented my Vice Chancellor in 2022, where we were having ICT Authority trying to come up with we were validating the curricula they have developed on digital literacy. And the idea was, is it possible that students or people who are able to do some things out there can get basic digital skills and expand their mandate in terms of throughput? Where did it go? Up to now, 2 years plus, the thing is like it has died, because the original idea was the ICT authority is going to give mandate to institutions, let's say TVET and the universities, to be able to train people outside there in groups. So let's say Grace University is in Thika. You identify the scope, and then those fellas who wish to get skilling or upgrading gets trained by the GRESA. They pay something small, but then that money is shared between ICT authority and GRESA. Has it happened? Maybe it is still coming. What I'm happy about is the element of integrating digital literacy in curriculum. They have already integrated, or they are trying to streamline that through this CBE system, the competence-based education system that is being rolled out. Another important aspect that not all areas are endowed. You'll go to some places, Namugambi, where there is a very poor network infrastructure. So what happens? There must be a deliberate move to have what we call the public-private partnership and engage with the tech companies. They engage private sector partners to provide affordable digital devices, software, and educational content. And especially in areas that are facing serious challenges, and some are just moving from one side to another because of resources. But again, the public-private partnership should also spur tech hubs and incubation or incubators. And finally, developing what we call the community-based digital literacy programs, whether it is adult education. Kitambo, kitambo kidogo, we used to have masomo ya gumbaru. Elders or elderly people could be taken through some classes, and they could meet somewhere and they are taught. Are we saying that this cannot happen? It is possible. Adult education and community centers, and also developing what we call mobile learning units to reach remote areas, and providing training and resources to communities that lack access to traditional education facilities. Mobile learning units, akin to what was being developed by First Lady at one time, mobile clinics. So this one becomes a mobile learning unit for digital literacy. But then the government must make a deliberate move in providing incentives and support for digital learning by providing subsidies and tax incentives to especially areas where digitization is involved. If you find a government that is overtaxing the digital or innovators and whatever, then there is a problem. But then they should go further and provide what we call digital literacy grants. That way, we will manage to solve those particular problems. Thank you very much. I hope now, as I get like something on were we really unaware when or are we unaware, caught unawares when we have these disruptive technologies? The answer is yes and no. Yeah, as look at a case of COVID-19. We know we must have learned some lessons from that disruption or pandemic. Many institutions, let me focus on education. Many institutions in Kenya were caught unawares, but some had already made deliberate moves and they were already providing some minimal or at some level some kind of programs online. But you can imagine even giant universities like University of Nairobi were caught unawares. COVID-19. The whole nation was in problems. And at that point, Commission for University Education and other partners and KICD and so forth were still encouraging institutions to continue providing digital learning. But as we were struggling, look at South Africa. They have a university, an open university, and even Tanzania has and others. UNISA, one of the universities that is well rated in Africa, it's among top 3. The University of South Africa, UNISA, and it is purely online. Were they affected by COVID? I think they were just continuing with their activity, but I can assure you we didn't do well. And in fact, some universities had to close for some time until things normalized. That is where we were. So as other places are moving, or other nations are moving, and other sectors are moving, others are lagging behind. And I think there must be a deliberate move to bring a balance. Thank you very much and I hope I was able to address those concerns. Asante.
Thank you so much, Prof. You have explained and given details, and I hope the ones who had asked questions have gotten the answers to their questions. You must be, allow me say, you must be an advocate of the competency-based curriculum. You can correct me if I'm wrong, because of your emphasis on the digital literacy,
Yeah,
your emphasis on collaboration and
Mm.
communication. That one actually came out very, very clearly. That led me to that particular conclusion. My concern, Prof, was on our level as a university and the examination process in the era of Chat GPT. What would be your advice to the examiners?
Thank you very much. I I think Doc, this an area that has been a thorn even in where I am, a thorn in the flesh, because there are those members who hold the philosophy that exam can only be as genuine. I mean, it can only be genuine when you see the learner seated in front of you. The matter is that courtesy of AI, you are able to detect any activity that might compromise the examination session. Some of the tech companies like Huawei has already embraced this so much. If you try to undertake the examination online and you move away from the screen, it automatically locks the learner or the candidate out. You cannot be able to copy and paste the things. Once you have started solving problems, you continue solving until the end. And so our examination system, the way we set exams must change actually, and just bring in more of problem solving. And I believe that myself as a trainer and other trainers, when we are executing continuous assessments, what we need to do is to give an assessment, and it is attempted at that point. You collect, you examine, and go away. The era of giving out take away or take home assessments is long gone, because plagiarism will kick in. In terms of framing questions, we are always guided by the Blooms. But those days when technology was not so key and generative AI had not taken shape, then low levels could be embraced when you look at the Bloom's taxonomy. But today, of the changes, and because of access to a lot of information, then we need to change the way we set questions, or the way we assess, by bringing in the higher order kind of evaluation. That's how I strongly believe that we will be able to solve problems. In fact, if you have a higher order, or questions that are stimulating or demanding for critical thinking, and you allow this student to go with it, we'll be able just to get back the responses from those tools. But the thing is, we should be able to assess those particular skills in real time, uh, where the learner is able to respond, go away. And of course, I had also the other aspect of bringing on board what we call, I know people like closed book, but I like open book assessments. Let the learner change the mindset that, oh, when I go to examination room, I must carry some materials or whatever written materials. Let them carry with they come along with the textbooks. Let them come with my materials or notes they had. But it also depends on how we will have set the questions, so that there is nothing like defining or listing or stating, but they are applying the concepts. Slowly, we will be inculcating critical thinking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. And I agree with you that indeed we have to change in terms of the way we teach, in terms of the way we examine. But again, that will also call for a lot of capacity building, because our training, remember, is based on a different curriculum or framework altogether. And so as universities, we really are called upon to do a lot of capacity building aligned to these new technologies that you have talked about. Members, I would like to take another round of questions if they're there. Unfortunately, we have had some technical hitch. The second keynote speaker is not able to join us. Maybe if he manages some other time, we will make arrangements and give him time to present. But for now, we can take another set of questions if they're there concerning the presentation that we have had. It is indeed a very interesting topic. It's very current. So if you have questions, this is the chance for us to know more about it, to understand more on digital literacy, the digital economy, and all that. So I'm inviting another set of questions if they're there. Then maybe, Prof, in the spirit of dissemination of the findings or your recommendations, are really maybe a request that these ones get to the policymakers, because if we talk about the change in pedagogy, examining, and all that, they touch on policy issues, and I think it will be quite important if those at those particular level are able to get such very important information, so that when they draft these policies for us, I think they should really be aligned to what your recommendations have been, because from your presentation, this is indeed your area that you have passion in, and you have done a lot of research in this area. So once again, thank you so much. If there are any questions, kindly let's ask, or areas of clarification. Thank you, Mr. Migiro. You'll go first, then Mr. Midigo. Thank you so much. Victor, you can take it up.
Thank you, Daktari, for allowing me to ask a few questions on this. Let me begin by thanking Prof for that insightful presentation. And I think digital technology, digital learning is the way to go, because it appears that the future is in digital learning. And I think we cannot run away from it. We have to embrace it, because from even the presentation, it's going to help us solve most of the problems that we are facing today. Maybe my few question I want to raise from the presentation is digital learning, digital technology appears to be the solution to most of our problems, even from the presentation as it has been made. Probably the question is, could we be having the downside? Could we be having any challenges with the digital technology, digital learning? And why is it that we are a bit slow in embracing digital learning, digital technology? There are challenges that are making us not to embrace it, because I think it has been around, but we seem not to be really embracing it that much. And particularly, I was looking at maybe the traditional way of teaching, the classroom, whereby now you have to interact with your students one-on-one, physical interaction. Because I've been in one of the universities where, not most of our universities, because as the population of the students increase, then we are forced, universities are forced to look for space to accommodate the students for the physical learning. Can we embrace this? Because I don't think maybe the physical learning, maybe could it be that physical learning could have more advantages than the digital learning? What could be your comment, Prof, on this? Must we stick with the physical learning, whereby now we have to look for space? Because I've seen this as a challenge in our universities. Why are we not embracing it that fast? And is there the downside to this, the adoption of digital technology, digital learning? That could be my questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe we can have two, then Prof will come in. Mr. Midigo, your hand was also up at some point.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and also the presenter is our keynote speaker for that wonderful presentation, and also informing us of various things that we are coming into knowledge with. During the presentation, I was asking myself some issues which maybe I can request our presenter to clarify to us. One of them is there is a fear syndrome among the population of the mass concerning digital economy. Find that in the normal physical market, somebody can have a trust and honesty when he goes physically to the place where he want to buy a product, especially when it is very costly. Because sometimes in the digital platform, and given the advantage people take of high lenses cameras, where you take a photo of something looking elegant on the eye, but sometimes you fear when you order it, will you have the values you are expecting? So how can we navigate this fear syndrome? And then also concerning content creation and the consumers, we find that there are those people in the middle who take advantage, and those who create content don't get much or get back monetization value to what is commensurate to what they create. And there are high hurdles that have been created for them that for them to get that money back, it is a tall order. So for example, you find that people in the music industry, they can create a content, and for them to get back money, they find that there are other platforms that receive this money more than them. And even the authors who authorizes books, they are normally in the public domain. Sometimes their content are being read and they don't get money back. So how can we navigate this? And then thirdly, concerning the issue of education and digital platform that we have discussed. Mostly those who are in the professionalism of technical courses like IT and the rest are at an upper hand in embracing this issue of digitalization. But I think there's this other side which is neglected of humanity subjects where we are not retooled. So I don't know whether there can be a policy of also retooling us to be at par. Because there's an incident I saw where in the developed world, people are even doing research in a very high technological level. Unlike us, where we sometimes still collect data in the field and do manual research. But their research has taken a certain notch where now it is being done in collaboration with digitize. Where sometimes you are even told to do a research on computing, even a language in a computer, which are level that we have not reached. So maybe you can help us clarify in these areas.
Thank you, Mr. Midigo, and welcome, Prof, to give your comment.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Naliaka. I'll start with the queries from Victor. What could be the challenges in the digital space, and more so digital learning? Yes, some of them we already know them, but let me just indicate this, that not all students have equal access to necessary technologies and even a high-speed internet. And because of that, it creates, because of the disparities, it creates a challenge in terms of delivery. And that is what we have been talking about, the digital divide. Yeah, even during COVID-19, during that particular period, I'm sure some schools, they continued with learning because their parents were able to buy some gadgets, provide facilitation and all that to the trainers. They could even learn from home. In fact, some they could follow lessons from TVs and so forth. They could get to download programs, software solution programs for learning. But some, if they don't have even a Mulika Mwizi, that low memory gadget, then they couldn't do anything. So those are challenges, of course. There are always technical issues related to hardware and software, but then one of the, even if you have the digital divide has been sorted out and there are no technical issues, there is this issue of engaging the students. Yeah, and it's a common problem. A student can log in and continue doing other things, engaging them. It requires some kind of training from the lecturers or trainers, the certain skills they should have, such that at the end of the day, they are keeping these students more engaged in that particular virtual environment with minimal digital distractions. How do they do this? For example, posing queries and in no particular order, mentioning names. So a student will be keen to follow because they might be called upon to respond to certain things. Or giving feedback within the lecture. When you're having online presentations, feedback being required in between the presentations. The learner or the trainee will be very keen because their responses will be missing. And maybe those responses demand something. May attract something. So it also boils down to quality of instruction and the kind of materials that we have come up with. Of course, whether we know very well what is the right online teaching methods that we can use. And more so, assessment and feedback is an issue. But I want to say that instructors, because online training, we call them instructors, need to be prepared adequately. Not all educators are equally prepared or trained to teach effectively in digital environment. And sometimes it is an issue and time management. This platform is just like any other platform. In fact, I will be advocating, I'm an advocate of online teaching, especially for higher levels. If some lecturers or lecturers expect students for physical lectures at master's level, then there is a problem. But I'm not saying that we can do away completely with the physical or face-to-face. In fact, the virtual environment is still face-to-face because you are interacting. But then the issue is we can actually reduce costs, enormous costs. I was just imagining a case whereby one instructor having a lecture online and all the students in various campuses are following the lecture, or they are participating in the lecture. And if that is a case where a university has various campuses and you are synchronizing the timetable, it reduces costs. Besides other materials, whether they are lecture chairs and so forth. But then it also comes with certain challenges. We, of course, on the side of educators, in the side of institutions, and the side of students, the costs, the initial costs can be very demotivating. You have to spend good money. And of course, technology is not perfect. And sometimes it fails. And that's why other fallback mechanisms have been developed, like cloud computing. Can imagine you need a stable network server, internet, and the servers must be running all through. And maybe in the middle of executing online examination, power goes off. What happens? So you do cloud hosting, or so that when the power goes, still students continue wherever they are to be able to complete the examination. But then change is not always embraced by many. There is a culture shock. There is a resistance to change. Cultural resistance. Traditional institutions and educators may resist the shift, by the way, to the digital learning. Mtu anasema hapa, mimi siamini hiyo vitu. I had a friend of mine was a lecturer of mathematics, pure mathematics, and she could say that mathematics is not a course that can just be taught using projectors and online and all that. And she resisted for some time, but later on she is the change agent. She is the champion. She realized that she can simulate, she can illustrate so many things using the various software tools that have already been developed that are helping them to deliver even much better. I can tell you nowadays, there's nothing like hard copies. And of course, there is a fear of unknown. People fear. People fear. They may think that my job will be going if I don't, if I integrate technology. No, you just train. The skills can be upgraded, and then you continue with your job. So the job security will always be there. But then the fear of unknown is an issue. And it also relates to maintaining standards. People feel, oh, online, is it of quality really? If a student today does enroll through online distance learning, and another one comes face to face to classes, people think that the one who has been coming to class got real content, while this one of online got a substandard info. But that is not the case. As I mentioned, some of the serious universities globally, like UNISA, is well rated. In fact, UNISA is almost 60 times better than University of Nairobi in terms of ranking. But all the students are just online students. So the thing is, there is that perception on standards, and it is not true. What you need is a proper accreditation, proper regulations, and everything will be good. Content and curriculum adaptation is an issue. But then let me just state something about what Victor, I mean not Victor, but Midigo Jackson had raised on a digital economy. Yeah, still, it is the fear syndrome that you mentioned. I can assure you, Jackson, if you told somebody, can I give you money, real hard cash money, 1 million, and another one, can I send you 1 million? The one of hard cash will feel very comfortable. But the truth of the matter is that all of them carry the same weight. In fact, the digital one is more secure. You can transfer a billion and nobody is worried. Not even through the gadget. You're just seated there and you are transferring 1 billion. And you are not, but 1 billion sitting with it in a house, what will happen? You can't even sleep. So there is that fear and the resistance to change. How do we improve or protect digital content creation? I agree with you. You release today something online and tomorrow everybody has it and you have not even gotten anything out of it. There are various mechanisms of protecting, and we hope that if they are well monitored, they can be able to solve some of these challenges. For example, copyright protection, that there must be a way in which the creators of content ought to be registered or ought to be sensitized to register, and ensuring that if it is a digital thing, there is a watermarking, watermarks on images, watermarks on videos, watermarks on documents, and so forth. You provide some watermarks so that it helps reduce, it makes it harder for others to use your content without permission. But then today, there is the element of proper license agreements that ought to come in or to be invoked. I think that is an issue, but then educating members on risks and awareness on content creation and what it takes is an important aspect altogether. The education and digital platforms in humanities, and I can tell you, there was a way in which a professor who was in charge of that, one of my colleagues here, was able to come up with a media lab. Not for communication, but it is for, it is called a media lab, and then there is a language lab and language lab. And he was able to integrate even softwares that could allow learners to be able to comprehend certain competencies and skills. There are softwares that are used, and it was a nice thing. I don't want to say much, but there are softwares that were involved, and they could pronounce certain words. They could educate learners on speaking, on listening, on reading, on writing, and so forth. Today, Jackson, if you wanted to learn French, do you have to look for a trainer on French, or you'll use there are platforms that are available, even and you don't have money, but what you have is the internet only. You just get a software, and it will be able to train you on how to speak, or even do 1, 2, 3 in French, even if it is just at basic level. So the thing is, there are tools available, and they can be able, grammar checkers, look at how you come up with the footnotes and the citation, and many other other aspects that are related to language and
for that presentation and your time. You've patiently answered all the questions and clarification areas that members are sought from you. So without much ado, I would like
thank you very much, and God bless you too.
Thank you. So, members, like I had said earlier, wow. Hi, Professor Gatune. You are muted, Prof. You are
hello,
muted.
how are you? How are you? Sorry.
Sorry. Fine.
A bit late. I'm in a different country, so it's a bit early here.
Well, thank you. I had earlier been informed that you had technical issues joining, but I don't know if you're ready to make your presentation.
Yeah. I'm fine. I can do something. Yeah.
Okay. And sorry, we have really eaten into your time for presentation. So maybe we can manage within the remaining time. So members, we have Professor Gatune Julius with us. He's our second keynote speaker that will be making a presentation on the future of work and the skills of the future. Professor Gatune is a policy advisor at the African Center for Economic Transformation, and he's also the UNESCO chair for the East African region. Professor Gatune is a passionate advocate for Africa's future. As a Kenyan national, he has a rich multidisciplinary background that spans from engineering, computer science, business administration, and policy analysis. His primary interest lies in exploring the factors that drive Africa's future and understanding the leverage Africa has in shaping its desired outcomes. Additionally, Prof is keenly interested in knowledge diffusion, the role of ICTs in development, and strategies for embedding inclusive business practices across the continent. Professor Gatune holds a PhD in policy analysis from the Pade Rand Graduate School in Santa Monica, California, and a master's degree in computer science from the University of Cambridge in the UK. He also possesses a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering and an MBA from the University of Nairobi in Kenya. So at this time, allow me to introduce and present Professor Gatune to make his presentation. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you so much. Yes, so I'll make my presentation. I think I'm able to show it, to share the screen, yeah.
Yes, Prof.
Screen, yeah. So let me try to do that.
Thank you.
This can be kind of tricky. Let's see. Choose. So let's see. Does that work? Do you see anything?
Yes, Prof.
Okay. Thank you so much. So as I've been introduced, my name is Julius Gatune. I am, as I say, I'm with actually several. I'm with Maastricht University in Netherlands, and also have a UNESCO chair, Deran Kimathi, and also a senior fellow, as you've been told, at Africa Center for Economic Transformation. So yes, my interest, as you are told, is basically issues of innovation, economic transformation. And all the things that we look at is trying to understand where we are going with the new changes. A part of the future of work chair, we really try to understand what is changing, what is driving the future, and therefore from there we start trying to understand how can we better prepare for that future. How can we help countries think about where changes are, and maybe I may also, because probably I can also help do something. Maybe I can do it later, just to help you understand what we do in the future. So people try to understand what is the future. But let me go ahead and try and show you this. I hope. Let me put it in slide mode, so you can see that. Yeah. Okay. So just first of all, just thinking of the future of work. The question is, why should we care that? And one of the things that we care about is that a job challenge. We understand that very well. And it's essentially a youth job challenge. And why do we have a jobs challenge is because Africa has got something called low elasticity of employment, so that even when you see growth, countries announce every day growth, Kenya and other African countries. If you look at statistics, there are some of the countries that are doing very well in terms of.
Sorry, Prof, if I can interrupt, we cannot see the slides move. If you can use the next icon, which is like a book.
Next icon?
Yeah, the full screen icon, the next one.
Next.
Down there, down screen, the next icon, which is like a book. The next one from the one which you used.
Let me see. Okay, just a minute.
Down there, the next one. The one which is like a book.
Like a book?
Yes. The next one. No, yes, one. That one.
That one?
Yes.
So this one will move, you see?
Yes,
now it's moving.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I didn't know that. I always have challenge with a bit with Google Meet in terms of slides. That's fine. Nice. I've learned something today. Anyway, so what I was saying is that sometimes when we think of jobs, growth, economic growth is supposed to create jobs. But that happened in a lot of economies in Africa because they are basically untransformed economies. We tend to be, growth can be because of commodity change in prices and so on. So growth does not necessarily translate to work, to jobs. And actually most jobs tend to be in what you call informal economy. So if you look at 93% of jobs are in what you call juakali, those kind of jobs. And also and those jobs tend to be very vulnerable. So people are in what you might call precarious, vulnerable employment. They don't pay well and also have very little in terms of protections. And as I say, this is more of a jobs. So you see jobs are created in Africa. Youths are there, 70 million. Let me just, put, am I running out of power? Let me just put this, put this in power. I'm saying I'm running out of power. So I need to work on this a bit, sorry.
It's okay, Prof.
Yeah. I'll put in power. I'll just plug it in power.
Sure.
Okay, let me just slowly do this. Just for. Okay, so I'm back. Yeah? So we have so again, so as I said, is that when we think of jobs, you see, we are talking of jobs being created, but very few jobs compared to the number of youths that are coming out. So and also the education systems are not doing a good job in terms of preparing youth for these jobs. So the question is, we have consequences, instability. It has been said all over Africa, youth. There's a growing issue of youth joining each other groups, youth migrating, and also obviously, but the more important thing is that it's a missed opportunity because young people are a resource. Demographic, there's something called demographic dividend. When you start having a lot of young people in the workforce and then you don't have as less dependent, countries have grown because of that. So the question is, how can you create policies that can start helping these young people create these opportunities, capture this, and also the country to grow, what you call the demographic dividend. There's a question of either you reap the demographic dividend or you reap the challenges, sometimes call it population, a time bomb that is there. The question is, how do you do that? So am I still, because I'm having a problem moving to the next screen. So, wow. You helped me to move to the next screen. Now I'm having a problem in this mode. Can you see the screen moving on your side?
No.
It's not moving on my side. Right now, has it moved now?
Good. Yes.
Fine. So the question is, when we think of changes, what is happening? Where are the key megatrends? Because that's part of what we do when we look at the future, is just trying to understand which are the trends and what matters. And the key megatrends, there are trends that are within the country, but they're also what you call trends that are out there and much bigger than a country. The world is just changing, and there are kind of 4 big trends that are changing. And one is technology. Obviously, we are now being told we are in what you call the 4th industrial revolution. And basically, this is basically driven by artificial intelligence. You can talk of ICT developments in artificial intelligence and also other technologies, including IoT, blockchain, and all those things are really changing. So we are in a digital transition, what you call digital transitions. And this information resolution is obviously changing the way we work, changing how the economy works, and changing a lot of things, and creating new industries and even blurring industries boundaries, and also destroying jobs. Then we also have something called socioeconomic demographics, obviously, and this is very, very important in Africa. There is working age population, there is urbanization happening. There is also a growing middle class, creating different opportunities. And also the growth of economy, obviously, is creating demand for goods and other things. But also a very, very important thing is something what you call a change. Social consumption. People are consuming in a different way. People are valuing things like we call social capital and other things. I don't know whether people have had something like called couch surfing. There's something in the internet where people join, and if you have a couch, somebody can come and stay in your house and they just stay on the couch. And there's a whole movement around that. And people you don't even know, they just meet on the internet, come and stay, sleep on my couch. And why is that? Because these networks, people are creating networks and they care. We now want to consume green. We want to care about the environment. We want to. And if you think of millennials, Gen Z, and such, the way they value things are very, very different. They may not value owning things as older people. Some of them, somebody said, the only thing they really care is about having a phone. The other thing they really don't care about. which means a lot in terms of demand and how people consume. And also you're going into all these circular economy, sustainability, all those things these are values, human values, people changing and how they see the world. And part of that is also the green economy, because we are concerned of climate change. We want to create a different kind of an economy based on different kinds of energy and different kinds of systems. If you talk of green, circular, all those things are changing the basis of the economy. So now, like, for example, if you think of in China, I think there are now more electric cars in China than internal combustion engine. And China is now one of the fastest developing countries in terms of cars, the biggest car industry. And they're actually at the head. Actually, they're taking this opportunity to create this. Then there's also power. Power is disappearing. Governments all over the world are becoming less powerful because of for global. We are now, even sometimes when we have our economic policy, we have to do SDGs, which are actually imposed from elsewhere and other things. There are global governance issues. There are also what you call decentralization, power moving to local, more local. If you think of Kenya, like county levels and such. So the central power of government, which have been driving, is all over the countries. There are global governance and other things that are taking power from government. But more importantly, it's also the power structure around the world. Obviously, we see the rise of Asia, and especially if you think of China. China is really changing and shaping investment. And this is obviously creating a lot of issues. And I'll come back to this because of these changes, Africa and in Kenya, we're in what we call a bind, because we have to navigate all this. So these are the key trends that we have to think of. So beyond the future of work, because when we try to think of work and future of work, we tend to think it's technology. Or this technology is changing, we're automating, what. That matters, but also other things matter. So let's again. So when we think of post-industrial revolution, because as I said, it's more of an issue of industrial technology changing, jobs being disappearing because of automation, big data coming in, IoT, all those things changing. But the question is, what should we worry about? Because there is a worry in the West about jobs. So obviously, the state of knowledge is there's going to be more productivity, obviously, because our jobs are going to be changed. But this has been changing. For example, there was an issue that 47% of jobs will be eliminated. Now people think it's much less. But again, this is still going on. There's going to be productivity, but again, it's being revised. So we have robotics. It's where robotics and automation is where we are very, very concerned. But they also seen that the biggest impact will be on what you call mid-level jobs. So going to a situation where you have what you call low-paying and high-paying jobs. People who are doing programming, all these nice jobs, but also the other jobs are you are doing jobs, manual jobs at the other end. So like kind of lousy, they call lousy and lovely job. That is the one that the West is seeing. And now you see job security coming to what you call gig economy. Yeah, so people doing part-time, Uber driving, delivering things here and there. Yeah. So there could be also jobs being created because of new technology and people connecting people in different ways. Those are some of the things that are seen as the impact of technology. But the question is, are they the same for Africa? So in Africa, we need to be careful, because one of the studies showed, like, for example, you can lose all jobs. Like, for example, 5% of the jobs in Ethiopia could be automated. Yeah, because the jobs are agriculture. And agriculture is much easier to automate, because you can, to make a robot that can do agriculture, it's quite easy. But the question is it worthwhile? Yeah. So you have to really take it with a pinch of salt. What is feasible? What is technologically feasible may not be economically feasible. So I saw a study saying in Kenya, yes, if you think of furniture industry, you can make robots that can do furniture, but the cost of a robot, compare the cost of labor, there's like a window up to 2032 before, because the robots, obviously, the costs are going down, and obviously the labor costs are going up. But before they converge, it will take some time. So there's kind of a window of opportunity for us to adjust in Africa. And also impact of productivity, because we are less prepared, we may not be able to take advantage of that. Also, when you think of manufacturing, it's a very small part of our economy. And therefore, if you think of automation and robots, it's really not, it's not an issue. It's an issue where you have very big manufacturing sector. And if you think of polarization, what I said, where you have lousy and lovely jobs and gig economy, that has been the reality of Africa. People, there is a huge informal economy and a small formal economy. And even gigs, this is Juakali, that's what people have been doing. So in a way, the fourth industrial revolution is actually moving the developed economy more towards the kind of economies that we see in Africa. So it's kind of a convergence, not a convergence in a good way. But the thing is that we can take advantage of that. I'll come to this. Yeah. So the question is, do people fear about this? When you think of these technologies, this is one of the studies we did at Africa Center. It says that people are quite positive in Africa. This was a study done in 12 African countries. And people, 55% indicated positive impact. People are not afraid of technology. People see these changes as going to be positive. Yeah. And then also changes, impact in software, manufacturing, and so on. So there's a general idea that in Africa, there's an optimism about technology, which is good. It means that we can start thinking of that. And actually, if you think of it, this just shows you the various transformation pathways in terms of transforming our economies that have been proposed for Africa. For example, using agriculture to drive transformation. You can also talk of modernized services, export-led manufacturing. This is the path that the so-called Asian tigers grew: Korea, Taiwan, Singapore. Infrastructure can also be one way of creating, driving transformation, creative industries, tourism. And you can see all those things can be impacted by this technology. So if you think of AI, machine learning, they can help you to increase the speed of development, new varieties. You can start thinking of how you do input, application, and such, intelligent robots. If you have heard of precision agriculture and such. You can use drones to monitor crops. Yeah, you can do internet-enabled irrigation system and those kind of IoT. Yeah, telephone extension. You have input and services. You can start creating models where people can start providing input and services through these platforms. Because if I wanted my farm somewhere, I'm a telephone farmer, I can create a platform and have people go and provide services, and we can monitor. It's also being used for data scoring. You can also use of 3D printing, can be used to manufacture locally fabricated machinery and so on. And you'll see blockchain technology being used for traceability in food. Actually, this is interesting because in Ethiopia, I saw one application where one company does coffee, and they use blockchain so that if you drink coffee in Netherlands, the blockchain can tell you that cup of coffee, who was the farmer. And if you wanted to tip the farmer, you can tip the farmer as a coffee drinker. So it's traceability, but also sustainable consumption for people who care, who produce this cup of coffee. And I appreciate, you can tip all the way to farmers. And you can also see this kind of modernized services. Yeah, driverless transportation, I think it's happening. You can see something like M-Copper. I don't know how many are familiar with M-Copper, which puts solar panels in Kenya and then gives you the equipment. And even as somebody who have a lot of money, you don't have to buy all the solar and related equipment. All they need is put the equipment, put you on a platform, and you can just pay as you use. So it's a different model. So these kinds of things are happening. Obviously, we know A and B is happening, e-commerce platforms and so on. So the thing is that if you look at all these pathways, for Africa, there is a lot of opportunity in terms of using all these new technologies that are coming. So it can accelerate transformation if we know how, if we leverage it properly. So yes, it comes with challenges, but also opportunity. And this is just going into this. So in terms of digitizing and greening economies, yeah, you see 4IR has potential to formalize informal economy. So for example, if you think of a platform where you can have fundis or anybody who wants to do some work can be on a platform, because usually if a fundi, how does a fundi get job? You go wait, or somebody tells you that's a good fundi. If I want to do some plumbing somewhere or something, it's word of mouth. But now with a platform, it becomes different, because if you put you on a platform, if you're good, you can reach more people. There are more better ways of ranking you and rating you. So if you're good, you can get more jobs. Yeah. So it's a way of digitizing, and even for green economies, as I said, copper using Internet of Things to do different ways. So you can start doing solar power. You can create a different ways of reaching different people, because it allows certain kinds of business models that were not there before. And leapfrogging, you can also leapfrog, because now we talk of 5G, even 6G, and I think 5.5 now is being implemented. But these are going to perform broadband in different ways. So you don't have to dig all the country and have cables. The same way you jumped from mobile to from landline to mobile is possible. And even you can see, if you think of manufacturing, we can also change manufacturing, because with 3D printing, augmented manufacturing, things are happening. And I think there was an experiment where you saw a house being printed even in Kenya, in Malawi, in Kenya, and a house could be printed, a whole house 3D printed in less than a day, 2 days, and at a fraction of the cost of a house. So manufacturing can actually come here, and these manufacturing models are actually coming along, because if you think of 3D, it changes how you manufacture. You don't have to have a central plant. It goes almost the way we used to have a blacksmith, a local blacksmith that goes and makes you something. If you think 3D given to local artisans, it can change completely. And nowadays you have all kinds of what you call blueprints out there being co-created by crowds and such. You can almost manufacture everything. For example, if you have a 3D printer today and you wanted to make a gun, there is a blueprint out there. You just download the blueprints, and there you are. You print it yourself, and you can imagine it will go into other things. Even I saw there's a jet engine that has been printed completely by 3D. Actually, the aircraft industry is really adopting this. So it means like kind of decentralized manufacturing, a new business model. Obviously, if you combine that with blockchain, because blockchain lets people transact, you don't even know each other. Because the reason why you go to buy something from a business is because a business gives you some confidence that it has been done, there's quality control, there's somebody I can get back to, because I really don't know who the other person is. But if you create a system that can connect people and create trust among people, I don't need I can go to a fully direct, even somebody I don't know, because with blockchain, I can order, and there is a system for trust, for ensuring that things are going to go properly, and I don't have to deal with conmen and such. It means a different kind of business model. Again, going from big businesses to smaller peer-to-peer, almost peer-to-peer connections. So with all these kind of 3D printing, blockchain, digital platform, IoT, you can start seeing a very different kind of manufacturing, even if you think of it. Different kind of industries and business models that can come from this. Yeah, so this is part of just saying the 4IR platform, again, an informal economy. And this can be very, very important, because one of the things that we see is how do we formalize the informal economy? And if you think of a platform where you put informal economy workers on a platform, so as I say, there's no need for personal connections. The platform can vet service providers, and through rating system, we can know who is good. So you don't need personal referrals, as you can get. And then, so sometimes you have a job, you want it to be done, but because you don't know who to call, you don't trust people, sometimes you keep things at bay. So with a platform where I can be guaranteed, I want something done, I want to fix something in my house, I can get somebody who can do the roof very well, because there's a system for vetting. I can make a decision quickly on that. Upskilling, because I'm on a platform, I can be seen. If I provide services, many people can know it's not just word of mouth. It means that I can also upgrade and skill myself. I can get new skills. I can go and learn about new things, because I can be paid for skill. Because right now, if you're in informal sector, even if you're better than the other person, I don't know. So I cannot, it's very hard for you to get premium for skills. So you all tend to get an average, whether you are good or bad. Because of that, I can get more, I can specialize. Because if I can specialize and I can get more, there's an incentive for me to specialize. Yeah. So you can start seeing that the informal sector can be upskilled. And also, more importantly, we can start providing worker services, social security, and other things that you provide workers. So there is a benefit in terms of trying to use this platform to automate, to provide services, or to upskill informal sector. Then there's also another thing, even simple automation, because there are some small like if you think of something called a Raspberry Pi, it's a very small. It costs like $100 or something, like 10,000 shillings or something like that. And there are open source solutions you can see, and I've seen somebody take these small computers with simple cameras, cell phone cameras and such, and putting them on a sewing machine, and changing the quality of work that can be done, because it can image processing, it can detect faults, it can do that. So it's also possible with creativity and IoT and very cheap computers and very cheap all these things that we have to start automating even in Juakali. Yeah. You can informal, obviously, with Juakali, you can see that you can, with all these new technologies, you have a different way. It can support innovation and market access. I think 2 or 3 years ago, there were some fundis, some artisans, some furniture makers on Gong Road who made a very interesting bench. And they had just gone to the internet during Corona, came up with this bench, designed and showed it through WhatsApp, through social media. And they got viral, and they got a lot of orders. I think even the then vice president, who is now the president, invited them to his home, and they got quite a good attention. And this was just basically using this technology. So they can drive innovation even at low levels, yeah. And also possible even to have shared services, because who said you can't locate 3D printers or other things within those or centers within where the clusters of this roadside or wherever Juakali people are, and start providing certain services. So the question is that all these technologies, there are opportunities for creating, for even upgrading and creating new jobs. Yeah. And Corona actually did show that, because Corona, as you saw, when we did Corona, acceleration increased. Yeah, right now we are on Zoom, because before Corona we thought somebody has to be there physically. Right now we don't have to. Cloud computing and other things moved mainstream. Now everybody's on cloud. Yeah, mobile money in other countries took off. Even in Kenya, it became more accelerated in different ways, because informal economy started getting included. Because one of the things that you really need is also, apart from informal economy, is not to have this kind of what you call dual economies. Because in Africa, we tend to have a formal economy that is very efficient and very productive, and an informal economy that is not very productive. A lot of time, because the formal economy, you have tools, you have management, you have people who are more educated, that you have studied things, so we can improve productivity. But and this knowledge should diffuse to the informal sector. But because they are not connected, you tend to have a problem, because you need to connect them. And what happened with this, we started having connections. So if you are a formal economy, you wanted things delivered, you have to use border, you have to do what. So in a way, it's starting to have this inclusive economy where the informal and the formal are connected, which is very, very important. And then you also obviously started creating a society where you see big data and data analytics coming into fore. Obviously, it was being used for tracking people during Corona, tracing cases and such. So there was an opportunity, obviously, for that idea of deploying big data. And also started seeing robots being moved. I think Rwanda, they were having a robot that was checking people's temperature and such. They were also having drones taking place and moving traces, samples to be tested and so on. So I guess what happened is that it showed that a lot of things can happen. Yeah? These technologies can come mainstream very quickly. So there's an opportunity also to start accelerating them, because Corona opened our eye. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to move to the next screen. Let's see. Okay, it has agreed. Okay. So some examples, for example, you see in Uganda, logistics, border, and this also happened in Kenya everywhere. The home deliveries increased. Nigeria, banking services, urgent banking, and all kinds of things. So they started more coming like what we see in Kenya. You see mobile phones, people develop apps where you could support, donate food to people and such. These are again Corona, but also interesting enough, we started having peer-to-peer models where, like in Ethiopia, they were trying to see, because we were trying to support people. Like, for example, we always try to support humanitarian people who are poor. And the traditional way of doing humanitarian is you have this central warehouse, you bring food, then you put them in lorries, you distribute them to the people that need them. But sometimes the poor person, there's a person around the corner, who also can provide that service. It may not be as poor, but so if I wanted to provide food aid to people, why do I need to build a whole infrastructure? But I can find somebody in the neighborhood who can say, this person, they need of food or they need services, go and provide it and I pay for you. So I create a new model where I start doing peer-to-peer. They started doing those kind of experimentations, peer-to-peer humanitarian. So as a government, I don't have to build a whole infrastructure. I can start connecting people and say, I know you, I want to do school feeding. Can you homes provide food to these schools or such? There are many ways you can start thinking of these models. So the question is that creativity is what, and thinking of business models, because again, and this is very, very important. Sometimes we think it's technology that matters, but it's not technology really, it's business models. How do you take technology and create a business model around it, given your circumstances? But then the challenge is that, yes, there are opportunities that I have said, but this again from the study that we did, businesses are not ready. The level of threat, they perceive high level of threat, and they see threat coming from new players, people coming into the industry. Because obviously, if you don't understand the technology, if you don't have people, if you're not creative enough to understand, people will come and eat your lunch. For example, if you think of a taxi, the guy on Monrovia Street or wherever in the city, Wabera, who sits on because the traditional way was a taxi man sits there, waits next to his taxi reading a newspaper, and hopes he'll get one customer, overcharge the customer, and make the day. Then somebody from California came with Uber and such, and the next thing he thinks the person who sits next to him is a competitor. No, it's not. That's not your competitor anymore. The competitor is somebody who is the technology, because Uber claims they're a technology company. They don't say they're a taxi company. But here they are. They are competing you. And I always give some example where I took an Uber. I was going to Hurlingham from city center, and the person took all the way to Westlands, came back, just a very crazy route. I think the driver was somebody new to Nairobi. And I think that's what the app told him. But then I complained, and I said, the charge is too high because this person, first of all, went the wrong route. And the question is that, yes, Uber agreed with me, and they reduced the charges of what had been charged. But that's not the point. The point is that two Kenyans are arguing, and the person who is arbitrating is somebody in California who has never stayed to Kenya, doesn't know Nairobi, has never been to Nairobi, but the one saying, we are two arguing and saying you took the wrong route and said, no, I did this. But it's being arbitrated, telling you somebody totally somewhere. So you can be doing your business here, but there's somebody plotting somewhere out there. So for example, if like the example I was saying, where you start putting maybe all these fundis or whatever on a platform, and you start finding them jobs and such, and creating services and all kinds of things for them. It could be somebody in California that will do that. So suddenly every Juakali person is being controlled by somebody somewhere in a Silicon Valley, and that business is captured by. So those are potential challenges, yeah. And so the key building blocks, basically, you have to build labor, you have to mix of skills, STEM, creativity, problem solving. It's just not STEM. You have to have quality internet, affordable internet, power, electricity. That infrastructure matters. Innovation system, you need innovation hubs, you need venture capitalists, you need triple helix model where university and academia and the industry and the government are working in concert to drive innovation. You need regulatory climate. You need to do very good regulation. Start thinking sensible regulation, experimentation. How do you sandboxes where you can start experimenting with technology? Because sometimes we don't know how this technology are going, and sometimes we are too quick to regulate. And one example in Kenya M-Pesa grew because the government was not too quick to regulate. But then if you think of drones, the government of Kenya has shown a lot of worry in terms of drones, because I guess the challenge of terrorism. So now to Kenya to drive a drone, you need a drone pilot, and the cost of becoming a drone pilot, I think, is like 250,000 shillings. that's where unaffordable for a lot of youth in Kenya. So because of your worry, you are killing a potential industry. Again, because you are over-regulating that. So sometimes you have to be careful how you regulate. The same thing we're hearing with Bitcoin and such. The question is, how do you create a space so that you can, regulation doesn't kill innovation? Yeah, so that's very, very important. So in terms of, if you think of, there's an asset of an innovation ecosystem. Obviously, there are all kinds of hubs, and there's a collaboration happening. But again, it's not good enough. So we have many trainees, incubators, but also a lot of people who are doing startups. But one challenge I saw is that people, you have been saying that you have a lot of vibrant startup in Kenya, but these young people, they are very good at pitching, but they are kind of become what you might call perfect pitchers, pitching from one innovation event to another one, for another one, earning $5,000 a year, $10,000 a year. So that becomes a business itself. So you have startups that don't really ever move to the next stage because people are just adept at giving the right pitch and getting that small money to start. And then also sometimes you don't understand the value because you may have a very good innovation and people want to obviously to buy you out. But do you understand? Sometimes we don't understand. So sometimes people say that some of these pitch events, hackathons and such, that you see a lot are opportunities for people from out there to come and harvest ideas because they have a better vision of what the value of what you're doing is, and you don't have. So sometimes you can sell out yourself cheap. Yeah. So there's also collaboration, trust funding and such. It could be more collaboration. So these are, you need to start, how do you create better collaboration? How do you create vision? How do you create shared understanding so that you start having a more vibrant innovation system? And obviously there's also the challenge of education. This shows that you need skills, you need science, you need business, you need cognitive skills, you need processing skills, you need problem solving skills, you need social skills, you need system skills. Because people tend to think because we are going to this ICT, what matters is computer science or maths or what. But no, that matters, but also these other skills are also important. As I said, technology is easy to, once you have technology, what matters is business, solving innovation, and also business model. Yeah. You also need people in government who are what we might call policy innovators, social innovators, people who can help people think in a different way. So all these skills are important, and all of them are not very strong within our education systems. Yeah, people just feel like there's a challenge. The education system is not preparing people for this kind of the skills that are needed in the future. Yeah, and we need to actions. We need policies to increase and quality of education, focus on lower education, should be on foundational skills and TVET skills. Upper secondary focus, okay, STEM skills are very, very important. You can also leverage ICT, and technology can help education system improve creativity, yeah, improve quality and skills development. Yeah, skills are important, but also these are the, as I said, these are the problem solving systems are also important. Apprenticeships also is very, very important. How do you connect people? And when we think of apprenticeships, sometimes we tend to think, we never think understand, because the biggest sector is informal. But do our education systems interact with the informal sector? Do you ever tell people, if you're doing apprenticeship, can you just go to the Juakali person who is there? He already has a business model that is working. But the problem is they have the wherewithal maybe to move it to the next level. It's people who are in school, people who are going to university that maybe can help, but we don't connect them. So when we think of apprenticeship, we tend to think of formal businesses. Yet the bigger aspect of our economy is the informal economy. Yeah, and you need to support policy to support lifelong learning. Long ago we used to have night schools. Most schools, primary schools, when I was young, in the evening they used to open up because they used to have the Elimu ya Gubaru, where people, there was a lot of push to educate people who had not gone to school. And I remember my neighbor, she had been married as a second wife as a young bride, and she came to Nairobi, and she went to those night schools without small education, and she went to school, passed, did whatever was called KJSC that time, then did a time, and finally she became She got skills, and that was the question of that was schooling. So Kenya had a good policy of that, making education open. If you didn't go to school, and now it's going to be more important right now because it doesn't matter. Even if you went to school, whatever you learn will be irrelevant. They say in the future, what you learn in first year in university will be relevant by the time you reach fourth year. And we know knowledge changes very, very fast. Yeah, we don't yet know these children who are joining Strad 1 right now. You can actually not know what jobs they'll be doing. We don't even know what they will be, which means that we'll have to have a lifelong learning culture. So schools, universities, everything, we have to create policies to support that lifelong learning. Yeah. So, and also providing information so that people can understand. People can understand what skills they need to build. Yeah. We need to strengthen the ecosystem, innovation system. We need to invest in ICT infrastructure as a country. Yeah, we need to have sensible regulation, as I said. Sensible regulation is very, very important. And this is just to help you understand. This is just to say, even if we are to just re-emphasize, because we talk of fourth industrial revolution today. Actually, I should have shown this slide earlier. Because when you think of a revolution, it's not just technology. Because we tend to think, when you think of first industrial revolution, we say it was the coal, it was the steam engine. That was key, but that was not what made the revolution. Even if you think the first revolution obviously is agriculture, when people move hunt and gather to agriculture. The question of you always need energy to think of where do you get power, because power energy is at key of economic activity. But also transportation, because economic activity is about producing goods and services. Yeah, so you need to be able to transport them. It's also production. You need to be able to organize. How do you produce? Because just because you have technology, that means that you have. It's about how do you organize production. Then also you need to be able to communicate to other people. So all those are important. So you see that writing became important when we went to agrarian, we could produce a lot of food. Somehow writing came up, and any society that went through that, they did that. But first industrial revolution, which is well known, it was called steam. Railway was key. Factories. People moved from cottage industries where people are doing things at home to this space where you create a factory and people come and work there. Newspapers and what came about and telegram. You needed to communicate. You need to tell people we have goods, we have services, we have what. And then you have the second industrial revolution, which is more like associated with the mass production, Ford Motor Company and such. That was the key thing there. But you had electricity coming in, moving from steam to electric power, yeah, and then telephone, radio, and then the third. Cannot be sure what third is, but you can talk of jet engines, aircraft, expressways, automation. But now we are in the fourth industrial revolution, where the key thing, we are going to move to energy, renewable energy. You're seeing hydrogen. It's energy, renewable. Almost anybody, wind power, can now distribute power. Distributed, but it's also distributed, produces power somewhere. Kenya Power takes it, distributes it, and then you get it. But now you can anybody can produce a power. If you have a roof, basically you can produce power because you can put yourself, you can put your solar panels there, or if you can put a wind. You can produce power, and you can even sell power because if you produce more than enough power, you can power the village, you can power your neighbor. It's different. It's distributed and it's renewable. You have electric cars, you have autonomous vehicles, you have drones, driverless, and you have seen that. In terms of transportation, you're seeing production. We are now moving, as I said, 3D printing, digitization of products, platform economies, shared economies, and also internet, obviously, has been the driver in terms of communication, social media, and such. So these are the things. So the question is, you need all this to move ahead. And therefore, this is just a study that we are trying to understand. Because when you do foresight, the key thing we always try to understand is what are we not sure about, and what are the potential outcomes from that? So there are different ways of industrialization. So if you think and jobs. So if you think of Industry 4.0 or fourth industrial revolution is what is going to be a big driver of change. And the other thing we say, the green economy is going to be a big driver of change. The question is, how are they going to evolve those things? Because we can have what you might call democratic, where everybody, these technologies are open and we have a vibrant everybody having these technologies, or we can have a situation where you have very big monopolies. So if you think of it, Uber has already captured taxi industry. Google is capturing this. You have Netflix. You have capturing creative industries and other things. So it's possible to have monopolies that control everything, and you can have companies that pretend that we are going to green, but we are not really green. We're just providing labels. Or you can have a truly sustainable economy. But if you have a democratic, for example, Industry 4.0 with truly sustainable economies that we have designed them to be sustainable, you have designed people to work well, sustainable economy. You can have what maybe something you can call the leapfrog world, where you have things like cobots. Cobots are robots that work with people rather than replace people. You can have green manufacturing clusters. You can have blockchain powered. You can have industries without smokestack. That's what we call subsidization, where you start selling services. So, for example, if I want to, for example, do air conditioning, if somebody wants, like in an office, you want to have air conditioning, sometimes you sell them the machines, equipment, so that they can keep air at a certain temperature. But it's also possible to say, I will sell you the condition, that air at that. So I bring my machines, I monitor them. You don't have to buy them. It's just I provide you that service. The same thing happened, like, for example, if you think of a big company called Rolls-Royce, which sells jet engines, the biggest company in terms of jet engines. For airlines, they don't sell them because an airline actually usually buys a plane, but the jets are usually from. So if you think of a Boeing, the jets are either Rolls-Royce or Pratt and Whitney or some other CFM or other company. But if it's Rolls-Royce, they sell you the service. They sell you. We are selling you so many hours of service. We will monitor our engine. We will repair it if you need it. We'll change it if you need it. Just pay for this number of use. The hours you use is what you pay. So different kinds of models are being enabled. Yeah, can have DIY engine. But on the other hand, if you have a greenwashed economy where we don't really have sustainability, just talk, and we have a captive OIR, we can have what is called a FANG's world, where you have all these big companies controlling everything. You can have Industry 4.0 enclaves where you have only a few people having the technology and everybody else is included. So what I'm trying to say is that what matters, and this is where we do foresight, is all these drivers of change. The question is, we are never certain how they go. They can go in different ways and so forth. You start creating this kind of scenario so that you better understand this. But then now, more importantly, if you come to Africa, coming back to this, because we said this is the transition is changing, but Africa is also now in a bind because we have America and China trying to decide who is going to run the world. Obviously, it's America runs the world now, but China is challenging that, and America is not happy about it. So America obviously has been trying to stop technology transfer, banned a lot of sale of microchips to China. Now, Huawei company had gone down because of that, because they start selling. They said you can't sell microchips. Yeah, and even asking other countries not to sell China. They have a new military alliance. They have talking of trade decoupling. Yeah. So America is keen on retaining what is called its global liberal order hegemony. But on the other hand, China is saying no. We are also going to return to the Middle Kingdom. China was the celestial. Long ago, China was the richest country in the world for a long time, and was the center. They thought they called themselves the Middle Kingdom. They thought they were the center of the world. And if you are aware of history, you remember around 1500, even before Vasco da Gama came to Kenya, China had come to the coast of Kenya. One big admiral called Tisheng. He came with like over 20,000 soldiers, and he landed in Malindi. And he took the Malindi king to go and celebrate the Silver Jubilee for the king. And the king of Malindi even went with a zebra. Not the zebra, it was a giraffe. And it was actually shown as it was highly appreciated. So China was a world power, but they never really conquered anybody. They just wanted you to come and acknowledge them. You can imagine, Vasco da Gama came with only 2 ships to the coast of Kenya. They came with, I think, a few hundred ships, maybe a few hundred ships and over 20,000 people, soldiers. But they didn't conquer, they didn't make you a colony. So China might be a very different country. But they have the Silk Road, which they're building up with Belt and Road Initiative. You have heard of the Belt and Road Initiative, building roads. Kenya is part of Belt and Road Initiative. They are now leaders in renewable energy. If you think of solar, 80% of the solar panel. If you think of wind plant, back by 80%. China cars now is the biggest car So there's a challenge going on. So, and in Africa, we have to navigate both of these, because where do you want? And you are very soon you might be told to change sides. So what's happening is that new pathways are opening. And this is increased infrastructure. China obviously has been doing BRI, the flagship project, Belt and Road Initiative. But now China is also starting. America now is starting to say also, we also need to join this. Yeah? So we have talked of Robito corridor from, I think, Mozambique to Angola. They're talking of building that new highway. Is also planning. The other day when the president of Kenya went, they talked of funding the Nairobi-Mombasa expressway project. So these are not things that China does, US does. But now, because they want to counter China in terms of infrastructure, they are starting. So there's an advantage for us. They're talking of new FDI because they don't want to depend on China in terms of, because China is the factory of the world. So they are very, very keen to decouple and start diversifying supply. And you can see even in Kimathi, there is a factory there to produce microchips being funded by the US. The US ambassador had gone to it's called the National Science Park, which is at the Kimathi. So where they're going to start producing microchips, and it's restricting imports to China. So China they want imports from China, but now China FDI moving to countries like Vietnam and other, they are benefiting because you start seeing those countries, the imports have gone, the exports have gone up. So they're up these export processing zones and such. You can now, they can come and build things here and you can export to Europe or wherever because now they'll be like made in Kenya. So those are opportunities. These are critical raw materials. We know Kenya has rare earth minerals and other things. And there's now a big interest in terms of securing these. Again, you can start trying to see how they can be mined and processed here. Again, you have a window because now you can bargain because these are two giants fighting. The question is, how do you bargain? And there's also something you call policy space because, you know, a lot of countries in Africa don't have much policy space because your policy is actually run by IMF and World Bank. They tell you this is what you do, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. So for a long time, you used to have industries in Kenya, like if you people in Thika, there used to be Thika textile mill, there used to be Kikomi, there used to be all kinds of mills, but they were all government things. But after the SAP, something called structural adjustment program that was introduced, they were told government can't invest anymore in business. We have to stop it. The old import substitution, industrialization has to be. We have to stop that. We have to open economies, and right there we became deindustrialized, and now that's when we now have almost everything we import because, and WTO rules can prevent you from even restricting imports and such. But now America is violating all this. America has put 100% tariffs on Chinese cars. They're talking of when if Trump comes back, they're talking of putting 60% on every import. This again is WTO rules. EU have put also 60% tariffs on Chinese cars and such. The fact that they are now breaking these rules means that you can also break them. So you have an opportunity now to say, we can now think of industrial policy in a different way. So we are kind of a policy space is opening up. So those are the challenges. Those are the advantages coming up. But also challenges, obviously, because this security competition is happening, we are starting to break down. You see, there are Russia in West Africa, Sahel countries, the so-called the Russian Wagner group. They're in Central African Republic. They're supporting Burkina Faso, Mali, supporting Niger, and those countries have actually now even broken out from ECOWAS. They say they don't longer want to be in ECOWAS because of it's like the East and West, the bloc. Long ago, they used to be East and West. It's coming back in a different way, and it's going to create all kinds of security challenges. And if you think of Africa free trade area that we are talking, Africa trade is based on having these strong regional economic blocks. ECOWAS in West Africa, East Africa Community in East Africa, SADC in Southern Africa, COMESA, all those things working together. So, and also there's also technology because America has said you can't use Huawei technology. So Europe, America, all of them, and you know how Huawei is leading in terms of what you call technology for telecom. Like Safaricom, most of it is Huawei. But like Germany, UK, they have been told by America, you have to remove Huawei. So they're using Ericsson. So over time, because these now countries are going in a different direction, you may have two types of technologies operating side by side, because now you have China and America, the two leading in technology in terms of design, in terms of what. And if they start diverging and saying you can't use our technology, you can't use technology, we may have used to have an iron curtain long ago, which was physical border in East and West, basically in Europe. So you can have another different technologies developing. Now we have Harmon OS coming to rival Android, because Huawei phones were told they can't use Android. So and China is developing its own ecosystems, and you might, as they become bigger, you'll be absorbed into one ecosystem or the other. Yeah, monopolies are coming, and I know we know China and USA are the big monopolies. AI they are the countries leading in that, and all these things. As I said, you can have platforms that capture everything. Yeah. So new monopolies, global monopolies are emerging, tech monopolies, the so-called the tech giants, and they are going to all industries. And obviously, we have a Cold War emerging. You have policy blocks, and this kind of a new security competition, it can also start creating also insecurities within our region. We now know Kenya has been designated as a NATO, non-NATO what? Kenya is already kind of now joining into this global competition that's happening, because obviously Russia, China, and what, Iran, they are on one side, and then there are also other countries are being pushed on the other side, NATO, and now you are now an official and NATO partner, which means that we are already getting engaged in all these. And I think we're even trying to go there and support the Houthi trying to stop the Houthis who are creating a chaos in the Red Sea. So this security competition is going to create new security. After and regional integration in Africa really depends on also having free movement of people, because in Africa, as we say, businesses are small and so on. So even if you cannot have free trade without having free movement of people, because it's small businesses, people moving with their goods. But in Africa, countries are very, very difficult to move around Africa. There's something called Africa Free Movement Protocol that has never been implemented. A lot of time because security issues. Because in Africa, a lot of countries, unlike Kenya, many countries don't even have IDs. So you can't even know who is who. But this is going to now to be, once we start this security competition, it's going to be even harder. So we are going to have the challenge in terms of trying to integrate and trying to create this free trade area that we talk about, and we have praised in terms of opportunities. So there are new obstacles coming up. So which way can we stay neutral? We don't know. Who are the examples there? Which side of technology curtain will you be if it emerges? Yeah. Because even now, I read one article where Germany is struggling to scrub out Huawei equipment, because Germany, as part of the West, US sphere, had been also asked to remove everything. But it's so embedded. So in Kenya, assuming now we are NATO, if you are told you cannot longer use Huawei technology, you might have to almost rebuild your whole technology system anew, because removing Huawei, and it's everywhere. Yeah. So, but countries like Turkey is in the NATO, but at the same time, Turkey works with Russia. Turkey is also getting investment, 1 billion car plant by BYD. This is the biggest car company in China, to start selling in Europe. So Turkey actually is trying to say you can navigate both sides. You have to start looking for examples and try to see how do you navigate both sides. But the question is, as the competition becomes stronger, are you going to be able to negotiate? Or are you going to be told this is what you do, this not? This it's going to get messy. As you can see already, there are wars breaking out, and these are part of this competition. So anyway, that's where we are. So what we need to prepare for, we need to mobilize funds. We need industrial policy. As I said, now we need to rethink industrial policy, because now and it's a window of opening. Yeah. How do you incentivize local industry? Right now we have opportunity to move to this new, what do you call it? The new green economy. Industry is developing. How do you start moving? Because as I say, China, people don't want to import from China. You can start, how do you bring those industries there? How do you also start developing your own local industries? Servitization, I say, said models, where you can start, you don't have to sell a product, you try to sell services. How do you bring women and youth? How do you bring innovation funds, strengthen infrastructure, develop green economy clusters, develop a regional framework at regional level to foster regional innovation systems, harmonize regional capacity, and so on, leverage up. So these are the things that we have to start thinking in terms of where we are going. Yeah, and that is it. So hope. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Prof, for that very informative presentation, knowledge packed, and we have actually gathered a lot from your presentation, Prof. Thank you so much. So a few take homes from what I have gathered. We keep asking ourselves, when is the future? Are we in the future or it's yet to come? But Prof has painted for us a picture of what the future actually looks like. He has unpacked for us some of the mega trends that we expected to see in the future. Like the future has a lot of urbanization. There's a lot of technology. Actually, we talked about the fourth industrial revolution. The future has the green economy being given a lot of emphasis. We have modernization of services. We have a lot of investment in infrastructure. We have virtual reality. You gave us the example of tourism and all that. So you have unpacked for us how the future looks like, and you've given us the impact of the fourth industrial revolution, which has both opportunities and the challenges. So that if we are not careful, then this fourth industrial revolution, like Prof has presented, is likely to take away jobs for many people, especially if people are not so much aware of what is happening around them, and if they are not even aware of the value of the innovations they come up with and all that. All the same, we have so many opportunities that you have unpacked for us, Prof, that come with the fourth industrial revolution. For example, you talked about new business models coming up, experiencing the green economies, talking about home deliveries that we have even at the moment, the mobile apps and all that. So thank you for all the new opportunities that you've unpacked for us that come with the fourth industrial revolution. So for us to survive then in this fourth industrial revolution, what are we required to do? You mentioned and gave a lot of emphasis on the training, because you had you mentioned how ill-equipped actually our education system is, and that intertwined with the first presentation that we had. We agree that indeed it is the high time that we improve on the way training for the youth is actually done, so that we have it skill oriented and not just about knowledge and all that. Then also for us to survive, you have emphasized as being provided with an enabling environment in terms of infrastructure, innovation system, having regulations in place to regulate all those innovations, and the use of digital literacy skills. This, however, comes with a lot of challenges. For example, you mentioned a lack of collaborations. You also mentioned regional disintegration, so that people are not able to collaborate and come up or benefit from the synergy that comes with this fourth industrial revolution. Then, of course, we also challenged as a country, we all agree in terms of the new technologies. Yet again, we are talking about the new tech monopolies, which you have already alluded to. Then good news, you have said that it is possible for us to still survive in the fourth industrial revolution if we acquire the so much needed skills. Talk about digital literacy, problem solving, adaptability to global changes, having literacy about the green economy, and knowledge about the mega trends, and the information literacy skills, so that we are aware about what is happening globally, so that we are not left behind as a country. And even as the university staff, as we train our students, we make sure that they acquire these skills that are going to help them survive in the future, whether it is now or we are yet to experience it. So thank you so much for that insightful presentation, Prof. We may not really have much time, but we cannot lack or miss out one or two comments or questions for Prof for that insightful presentation that he has given us. So members, if we can have one or two comments or questions to Prof. It could be a question, it could be something you need clarified, it could be appreciation for that presentation. All are welcome. Just briefly, so that we move on to the next session. Okay, silence could mean that maybe we have followed through the presentation, and maybe I could request through the conference office that maybe Prof shares the presentation, so that those who missed out are able to go through it slowly and follow through to the end. But once again, allow me, thank you, Victor. Thank you for that hand. You can take it up.
Thank you, Dr. for that opportunity. Let me take this chance to thank Prof for that insightful, good presentation. There are many things maybe we can pick from the presentation, particularly on the aspect of the need to embrace skills even at the lower levels of learning. And I was looking at maybe the new education system, now that we are moving away from 844, whereby we need to embrace more of skills, more of practical work than the traditional theory and classwork. And from the presentation, I was just wondering what is the future of universities in as far as technology, the skills are concerned, because 2 years ago I had an opportunity of assessing the projects which were being presented by TVET institutions in Meru County, Kinoru Stadium. And there were many projects. There were cases of maybe a car which had been innovated on. There were cases of wine which was locally produced. I saw a case of those trays which carry eggs which were being presented, which were made from sawdust. Now I was asking myself, what can universities showcase as innovation that we've had? Probably, what is it that we are not doing? Is the future with the universities, or we are going to close and focus on TVET? Because I think everyone now is talking of TVET, even from the presentation. We are focusing on TVET and the skills, good foundational skills. So would we say that maybe the future, where is the future of universities? Are we going to close shop, or there's something we can do? Is there anything that we can showcase that we could say, apart from the research? Or probably the research leading to maybe innovations? Where are we? Because now that makes me to be worried. Is there something that we are not doing right? Would there be a challenge with funding? Or is it that maybe we'll find TVET institutions are coming out with projects, innovations? What can we show as universities? I think that is a good presentation. Probably I would want to hear from Prof. What is the future of universities and as far as innovation is concerned, especially universities in Africa? Probably things will be different in the West, but how about Africa? Are we making any progress? Thank you, Prof.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Prof.
Go ahead.
Okay, you can go ahead and respond. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. I guess it was more of a reflection and maybe a question here and there. But I agree with what Victor has said. The question is, what's the future of the university? It's something obviously we are also grappling with, and also it's actually one of the topics that one of the workshops we want to start holding actually as we do the future, the chair of the future. It's really has start helping university how they can re-envision themselves in a different way. But obviously, university is going to be at the core of this development because we are now purely into what you call knowledge economy. And in knowledge economy, knowledge becomes a center of it. Yes, you have knowledge, but then knowledge can drive innovation. But then what you need, knowledge and innovation is not enough. You don't have a business model, it doesn't matter. The question is then, how do you start building? The university has to become what we call, I think the term being used nowadays, kind of the entrepreneurial university. And what you have been doing actually, some of the work that I do at Maastricht is building what you call triple helix platforms, where you try to say, to drive innovation, you need knowledge, you need business skills, and you also need policy, and you need them to work in concert. So you create these triple helix partnerships where you have universities, industries, and government, and especially at a local level, working more closely together to start driving innovation and creating what you call a triple helix platform. For example, if you think of yourself, you're in Thika. Thika has your university, another university, Thika as a county. If you think of even Thika itself as has a lot of industries, and it used to have a lot of, it was the industrial heartlands of Kenya and such. But you also have policy making. But how have they been working with that ecosystem to start developing different ways of doing things, different innovations? Because what happens is that, yes, universities innovate, but sometimes the innovation just sits there. Students do every day, students are doing projects. They're doing final year projects, or they're doing masters, or they're doing PhD. But why do they do? You do it to pass, isn't it? You don't do it with the fact that, okay, I want to change something. Yet we have problems at our doorstep. If you step out of every university, any university in Kenya, just 10 meters away, you start seeing problems that needs to be solved. Actually, Africa has a lot of issues that we need to solve. But we don't orient ourselves towards solving the problem because we kind of have an orientation of creating this global student who is out there trying to solve problems. For example, I always say when I did civil engineering at University of Nairobi, and where my final year project was designing an oil rig to drill oil in North Sea. We didn't have oil, we don't have North Sea, we don't have water, but that's what we did. But we have problems that an engineer could solve in Kenya. Farmers don't have proper storages. We lose 30, 40, maybe 30, 20, 30% of the food that is produced in Africa gets lost because of poor logistics, storage and such. And then when I was in Ghana, working in Ghana, I met some of these engineers from Canada, young engineers, working in a very remote part of Ghana, and they were designing granaries that were using local materials. And actually, some of them coming back from the huge technology that was there long ago, that traditional technologies that they were designed granaries that can last for 50 years, very high quality, using local materials, mud and other things. So you have here white people solving a problem for us. Yes, we are trying to solve their problem. Yeah, then they can solve their problems. The question is that what would have prevented me from being oriented in such a way that if you're doing your final year project, I tell you, go to your rural area, solve the problem, or go wherever, or go to this community. We work with this community, because there are business problems, there are engineering problems, there are social problems, there are all kinds of problems. The question is, the university will play a big role. And obviously, even when you talk of problem solving, even TVETs obviously come in. Because the other thing is also to start understanding that you need also university and TVET need to work seamlessly together, because people need to move from one sphere to another. And long ago, if you're in TVET, you could easily come and join. If you're engineering, you could, if you have a diploma, a higher national diploma, you could basically come to second or third year engineering and continue. But I don't even know whether that can happen anymore, because our education system also tend to be very jealous, try to lock it up. I remember when I was in Nairobi University, there used to be a way where if you did physics and mastered in electronics, you could go and do a master's in electrical engineering. And I know one person who did that. But the moment he did that, the university met to close that loophole so that somebody from physics cannot transfer to come and do a master's in electrical engineering. The same way I saw some students in Kenya who are being told, because there was a TVET, I think in Western Kenya, that had very modern machine. They had the most modern machines you have, even today they have in Kenya. I think they had a PS who was from there, or somebody from that region who facilitated that. And somebody was telling these university students, this TVET has the best equipment. Go and learn there. Go, let's have some classes there. And the students were not interested. They didn't want to. They said they are not TVET students. They are not. You can see we have pathologies that actually we need to overcome to understand the search for knowledge. You should search for knowledge anywhere. Knowledge doesn't matter. But we tend to have this idea of closing up spaces and trying to monopolize certain spaces. So the whole idea is that the university has to become an entrepreneur. It has to open itself up. It has to solve problems. And if you think of it, yes, Africa, it is the next growth area. All the countries in the world are dying. Yeah, Korea. Now every country, they're trying to incentivize people to give birth, because Italy, if you look, they're demographic disasters. So the future is Africa, and we have to understand that we have people, and people is what matters. And the university has to be at the leadership, at the point of trying to drive knowledge, and we're going to a knowledge economy. Yeah. So how do you collaborate better with industry and such? And actually, we have been doing a project with the Ministry of Trade and Industry, building what is called a industry academia platform, where industries bring problems, and we have groups of students from all universities, even TVETs, from various universities in Kenya, brought together as a team, and you solve a problem, irrespective of what discipline. The question is, the platform is trying to break these discipline barriers, trying to think that you're engineering on what, trying to say people can come from any discipline, any level, any university, whether TVET and Hatch, and solve a problem together. So we're trying to show this is how real world works. Yeah, when you're out there in the real world, you don't choose who you are. You get the opportunity where it is, and you work with the people that you find. So I think for me, the university will play a big role in driving the future, but also the university has to reinvent itself and to rethink its role. And maybe that's a bit of a long answer, but fine.
There couldn't have been a better answer than that, Prof. Thank you so much. Victor, I hope you're satisfied with Prof's response.
Yeah, that is, but maybe the only thing is, I think we need to change our mindset. The way Prof has put it, we need such knowledge from anywhere. You know, if you go through university, you don't want to visit your friends in TVET because you think you consider them not to be of much value to you. I think we need to look for knowledge everywhere. I think that is good, Prof. And we need to incentivize and do more in that realm. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So once again, Prof, it has really been a privilege listening to you. Thank you for making time to make a presentation despite your very tight schedule over there. We are very grateful, and we hope that you will maybe share with us your presentation so that we continue learning from it.
Yeah,
so,
I'll share that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay. So members, once again, apologies for eating into your time for the lunch hour. We didn't anticipate that delay, and we're actually very sorry for that. So on that note, being informed that we start the paper presentations from 2:30. The links to the different clusters have been pasted on the chat section, so you can check the cluster in which you are supposed to present from and join. Then we have the paper presentations starting from 2:30. I'm happy I have seen Dr. Ross Njoroge from Kenyatta University. She has joined us. Dr. Justus Usero is also here with us. So we actually fully set for the second session. So once again, thank you for being patient throughout this session. I'm sure you have learned just the way I have actually learned. So thank you. I was your NC, Faustin Nadlieka. So we break out to our different clusters. Thank you so much.